I think the hard question with creatives, and this might not just be for us, but any creatives, is a creative is art. And how do we know if art's going to work? How do we know if this song's going to sell? How do we know if this movie's going to... And so we're doing that in micro form, right? In a small form. We're making the cinema of today because that's where the eyeballs are. And how we often get hard questions of how do we know it's going to work? Luckily, we have enough data to showcase that the formula we use, the way we create videos, that it does work.
Viraal gaan met je advertenties. Elke marketeer droomt ervan. Maar voor onze gast van vandaag is het dagelijkse kost. Of dat proberen ze toch althans.
Welkom bij Agency Live, de podcast voor agency owners en C-levels die hun weg zoeken in het steeds weer veranderende agency-landschap. Mijn naam is Louise.
En ik ben Robin. Advertenties maken die mensen willen zien. Dat is op zich al een stevige uitdaging. Maar content maken die meteen in de groepschat belandt, dat is next level. En nee, dat is niet simpel, want anders deed ieder agency het wel. Vandaag duiken we dus in het verhaal van een fris Brits agency, StudioB. Zij maken die Squid Game-achtige campagne voor Netflix, meer dan 220 miljoen keer bekeken, organisch. Ze stonden ook achter een Pixar-campagne met 35 miljoen views en lieten heavyweight-kampioen Tyson Fury over de London Bridge stappen als een soort Godzilla. Behoorlijk episch.
Zeer episch. StudioB begon ooit als het YouTube-kanaal van Brandon B. en is intussen uitgegroeid tot een volwaardig creatief productiehuis. Vandaag maakt StudioB content voor grote namen zoals Netflix, Pixar, Amazon en Sony.
Wat hun werk sterk maakt, is dat ze advertenties maken die niet aanvoelen als advertenties. Entertainment first, sales second. En onderweg gaan ze vaak viraal.
Vandaag schuift bij ons Dean Joffe aan, Business Development Director bij StudioB. Zijn opdracht? Het team en de omzet van StudioB opschalen zonder de typische creatieve energie te verliezen.
Wat kan je leren van een creator-led agency zoals StudioB? Hoe bouw je een business op het nemen van puur creatief risico? En hoe ziet voor zo'n content-led agency groei eruit in een wereld vol content, overal en altijd? Dat en meer straks in ons gesprek met Dean. Welkom bij Agency Live.
Dus Robin, wij staan hier op het punt om te praten met Dean van StudioB, meesters in het maken van reclame die niet als reclame voelt. En wat gaan wij nu doen? Gewoon superklassieke reclame inspreken.
Inderdaad, vreselijk gevoel. No pressure. Maar hey, iemand moet die dure microfoons betalen. Dus let's go! Want ook deze aflevering is mogelijk gemaakt door Teamleader Orbit.
Run je een groeiend agency en word je gek van losse tools, spreadsheets en wazige rapporten, dan is Orbit misschien wel je redding.
Want Teamleader Orbit geeft je zicht op je pipeline, je winstgevendheid, je capaciteit en ga zo maar door, zodat jij je bureau kunt runnen als een echte business.
Ontdek het zelf op teamleader.eu/orbit en boek je gratis assessment.
En nu terug naar het coole Britse agency, StudioB. Hello, Dean. Welcome to the podcast. Great to have
Great
you
to be
here.
here, Robin and Louise, and thanks so much for having me on this sunny Friday afternoon, at least where I am.
What is StudioB, and how did a one-man content brand turn into a full-blown agency?
Brilliant, and great place to start. And exactly as you said it, Brandon B it was a one-man content creator. He had done some previous editing and directing for a various number of companies. And during COVID, when he no longer could do that job, he said that he'd just create one video a day, and just during lockdown, which was 2 to 3 weeks. That obviously ended up becoming about 3 months, but he kept to his word, and in that time grew from 0 to 1 million followers and subscribers. Today he's sitting on over 25 million. And in the course of that time, obviously as brands started to approach him because of his unique and viral VFX and CGI effects that initially he was just creating on his phone, he's now built an entire commercial studio that we work with the likes of a Netflix, an Apple, a Sony, to create some of the most viral campaigns globally with a fully fledged production studios out in North London and a brilliant team made up of everyone from editors, VFX artists, CGI artists. We have two guys that their whole job is just to make things blow up. And of course, there's someone like me who heads up the commercial division. And that's in a nutshell.
Okay,
And
clear.
what about your own journey? Because I read that you wanted to go to acting school and you wrote shows for Amazon Prime. But today you're a business developer. So how does a creative guy end up in business development?
Firstly, where did you see such things? I'm joking. Those are all true things. I suppose where I am now, my journey has kind of been a culmination and a combination of both creative and business. So, whereas I did want to go to acting school, didn't really make it. Didn't make it past the first 20 minutes. And I have done things like write TV shows for Amazon Prime and a few private sales, etc. But I've always loved the world of business and business growth and working in team as well. Obviously, being a writer is quite a lonely journey. And where I found myself now with these guys is a unique position where I'm in this creative world. I'm dealing with literally one of the most viral content creators in the UK and Europe and even globally. We work with the likes of your Mr. Beast and biggest creators in the world, but also still on that business side where I can help use my expertise in the advertising space and grow that business. So this is kind of the best of both worlds and how I've ended up here.
So, Dean, you as the master of business development, what's your big goal now that you're on board?
So our big goal is, you basically just said it, is massive growth in all areas, massive growth in the amount of content we're producing. The quality is there, but the massive growth in the amount of brands we're speaking to. We've already committed to massive growth in terms of studio. So we've tripled the size of our studio now. And, all the passion and everything we're doing is going in the right direction. So I'm really excited about it.
Okay. Well, let's dive into those ambitions a little bit later. But for now, I'd like to know a little bit more about StudioB and the work that you do.
Yeah.
You're specifically known for making ads that don't feel like ads. What's the thinking behind that?
Yeah, I love that line, and I hadn't really heard that before I arrived at Studio B. I think the whole meaning behind ads that don't look like ads is, if I were to ask you, Louise, today, tell me the best ad you've seen today. Could you mention any off the top of your head?
It's a good question. I saw an ad, but it's maybe not really an ad by Gaia, which is a Belgian
Okay.
organization for animal rights.
Sure.
And
Yeah. Okay.
They have this ad now, which starts as it's like a fairy tale, like everything is going great for this. I'm not sure what it is, a chicken or a pig or something. And
Okay.
they make it seem like it's a children's movie and everything is happy, but then in the end, of course, the animal dies. So I don't know. I like that ad. It struck me.
Yeah, and I think, and tell me if I'm wrong or right here, but it seems like it emotionally connected with you. Perhaps, Are you an animal lover yourself?
Well, yeah, isn't everyone?
I know some more than others, but Robin shaking his head. But yeah, no.
Some people hate animals.
We don't
These people
talk to those
exist.
But it emotionally connected. It also sounded like it entertained you. It was creative in its approach. It wasn't just throwing a product, at you. And that's the whole thing of an ad that doesn't look like an ad. It's there to entertain, to capture your attention. Not to sell you. At the end of the day, everything we do is to try and sell. But if you package in a way that it gives value, whether that is entertainment or information, but entertaining, if it doesn't entertain, you're not going to get the attention, because our attention spans are less than a second. It's the first frame, it's the thumbnail. And that, I suppose, I can go on a huge tangent. We can talk about this for a whole hour, but that I think is the essence of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. in essence and in theory, that all sounds, of course, pretty great. But that also means making entertaining work, making daring, bold work. How do you actually sell that to clients who are perhaps used to more traditional, less inspired, less brave
Yeah,
formats?
absolutely. That's our day-to-day battle, Robin. So you've nailed it there. We are very fortunate that what Brandon B did was learn how to own virality, which sounds very cheesy. And sometimes we go to the agencies and they're like, don't come to me with virality. Everyone wants to go viral. But we've literally, I can't take too much credit. Brandon B took the credit. He learned how to make things go viral where, you know, our videos for our brands have achieved over 18 billion, it's billion with a B, organic views for our brands. So Brand learned how to do this and then how to replicate it with brands where the average view on a video for a brand is over 15 million organically. So, where a lot of brands don't get that with paid. And that's kind of the world I actually come from. So, I've come with this unique perspective of how do we merge both this paid knowledge, but actually this organic tools. And yes, we do have formulas that we have created. Again, love that I'm taking credit here. It's Brandon B and the creative minds, which I can share some things and some things. It's like Kentucky Fried Chicken. Like you can't share all of the sauce. But is that something I should share? Something I should go into, just so I don't tangent this too left?
You can share some of your sauce with us. We're not
No,
against that at all.
spill
Spill it. Spill that
spill the
sauce.
sauce. So I think two key things which I think everyone knows, but maybe doesn't apply. The one is the first frame. So everyone talks about, capture the attention. It used to be 7 seconds, then it was 3 seconds. It's no longer 3 seconds. You don't have 3 seconds. You have a frame. You have that frame. And maybe we can apply this to our thumbnail for this podcast. So what Brand and the team have really owned and become experts in is in that first frame. That first frame has to tell a story. There needs to be a question needs to be asked in the audience, viewers, watchers head that they want to answer. How do they answer? They watch. And so you're capturing that again in frame zero. And again, like different platforms, like a YouTube will have a thumbnail that will do that. Mr. Beast obviously has owned that space, and he's probably the kind of benchmark of what to do. And then us who work a lot with shorts, work a lot on TikTok and Instagram, it's where there might not be a thumbnail, it's a frame. It's that first image before. That brings me to the next point, which is looping, what we call looping, which is opening these questions. You had that first question, which was asked in that first frame, but you need to continuously, it's a hard word to say, continuously ask more questions, create new hooks, ask new questions. I watched a great film that I can't think of the name right now, so this is going to sound really good to your viewers. Oh, you know what it was? Because I was just on a plane to Australia. I'd never seen it, and it was Tom Cruise film, The Last Samurai. Fantastic film, old film. I'd never seen it. It was there on the plane, so I had to watch. Anyway, side tangent.
The historically accurate movie with Tom Cruise being the white last samurai.
How historically accurate. I'm not here to debate that, but as a film, it's fantastic. And what it does, which is what we do in 18 seconds, is it keeps creating new questions. It keeps asking new questions that you need to answer. And how do you answer? You keep watching. Now, we will do 5 to 6 of those in 18 seconds to a minute. They do it in an hour and a half, 2 hours. And that's the difference. So there's a little bit of the source, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. So grabbing attention and keeping it grabbed until your viewer is totally in the loop and just can't click away anymore.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Dean, some of your secret sauce. I was wondering, though, when you propose this kind of this idea of making ads that don't feel like ads to clients, what kind of objections do you typically hear in those conversations? Do clients have hard questions for your team?
I think the hard question with creatives, and this might not just be for us, but any creatives, is a creative is it is in a way it is art. And how do we know if art's going to work? How do we know if this song's going to sell? How do we know if this movie's going to be work profit? And so we're doing that in micro form, right, in a small form, and then it's nothing to take away from what we do. For us, that we're making the cinema of today, because that's where the eyeballs are. And how we often get hard questions of how do we know it's going to work. Luckily, we have enough data to showcase that the formula we use, the way we create videos, that it does work. Again, where it's like 90% of the time, all the time. I think the biggest objection comes in, we have a very unique style that a lot of brands haven't ever tapped into. What we do have on our side is eyeballs. Everyone knows right now you need to be on social, you need to be on TikTok, you need to be on Instagram, you need to be on Shorts, you need to be on YouTube. And we have enough data from what we have done to back that what we are creating will work. Of course, the creative has to be original. It has to be unique. It has to be exciting. And that's what our whole creative team is for, which is the biggest team in our whole company. And then from a brand, it does take a bit of bravery, because we're no longer in the world of the infomercials. If you remember the guys on TV selling things and holding up things with price and you can call to buy it. And ironically, that is still happening today in the new form with influencers. If you think about it, they're just the modern day telesales kind of people. We're saying, okay, that has its place. Everything does have its place. But if we could get a brand to get a viewer to fall in love with your brand, with a story, with a narrative, we can entertain, we can get them to share it with their friends, because it didn't even look like an ad. Sometimes they didn't even realize it was an ad. Of course, it all does say ad, because you do have to specify that. So we're not trying to be sneaky or anything like that. But when they've actually entertained them, and that's how we kind of push a hesitant client kind of through that funnel.
Mm-hmm. When you say we have the data to back up that it works, these kinds of viral short form content, does it work for both short term sales objectives and for long term brand growth? In your opinion, can you prove both of those things to clients?
Absolutely, and in different ways. So if we start with a short term, you've got a campaign. It's kind of a short turnaround. We're going to create something that's exciting, that gets attention and delivers the results. Whether it's we're trying to engage, we're trying to create awareness and reach, whether we're trying to actually get them some kind of call to action. But then the long form, that's really where the exciting work happens. It's all exciting, but what we're really falling in love with is a word or a term called branded entertainment. So I don't know, and I'm sure you guys in Belgium have soap operas. Now, I don't know if you know where soap operas, how they started or why they're called soap operas. Do you know?
Because they used to be meant to sell soap to housewives.
Robin, you're too good. Yeah. So you get it exactly. And they were funded
Yeah.
by the soap companies, by the P&Gs, by the Unilevers, etc. And that, in essence, was the origin of branded entertainment, where people fell in love with characters. And often the shows, they don't even the brand will be there, etc., and it's sponsored, but they're not talking about the brand. It's its own story. Now we 100% see that's exactly where we're going back to, but no longer a soap opera, on old school television. But we really see the frontier now as YouTube, where any brand could be there. There's no barrier to entry. And the real opportunity is now that the quality of content, there is good quality, but it's few and far between. A lot of it is UGC, and there's a place for that. But if you're trying to create a branded entertainment piece, whether it's a format like a show, a reality kind of show, or an actual narrative series, that is where brands can make a huge move. And right now, it's almost an untouched space.
Do some clients ever worry that their brand might get lost in the entertainment?
That is a worry, and that is a concern. And it's our job as the creatives to make sure that doesn't happen. Again, we have to always remind them we're creating entertainment, and the idea is to entertain and sell, but it can't be pushing the product down the throats of the viewers. Otherwise, they're never going to watch. So the whole thing becomes null and void.
I'm going to follow up with another extra question. Is StudioB for everyone, or does your agency only work for like a specific niche market by design?
I would have to say it is for everyone, because of how we have learnt to grab various different attentions. So that depends on the market, the audience, etc. And every video could look similar, but could look vastly different. It's all about really and this is where we spend a lot of time, is understanding who is the audience really trying to talk to. What are they really trying to do? What is their problem? Like, where are they falling short? Understanding that, and then going forward. And now that doesn't mean we haven't turned away campaigns, because we felt that there was a misalignment, that what they really wanted to achieve, actually our kind of entertainment style was not actually the perfect style for that. They maybe needed something more aligned to an infomercial, something more aligned to a classic B2B kind of talking head, which again has its place, but not saying that they couldn't use us for perhaps a different campaign or a different objective.
Okay.
We ask this question frequently with advertisers and people in the advertising industry, if they sometimes turn a client away because they feel this is not going to cut it. Perhaps the client wants it, but we will not be of our optimal value to this brand. Do you have that sometimes with StudioB?
Absolutely. Like, we know where our speciality. We are a creative production studio specializing in virality, VFX, and CGI. And we've had companies come to us and be like, we want to do a series of straight interviews, just in chairs. We want to keep it really straightforward. This is just an example of something like this. But we really want to keep it's just basically an interview style, but we don't want to bring in any flair. We want to keep it kind of real business and smart. That is kind of, for instance, a campaign that would be like, well, that is an idea and it can work, but we can really elevate and take it to the next level. Now, perhaps they don't want to do that. That's probably a campaign we wouldn't really take forward, because it doesn't bring out the best of us, and we think we can bring out more. And so it's just not an alignment, which is fine. It's not all going to align. Yeah, and I suppose that's a good example.
Okay. That was the creativity department. Now let's talk about your specific part of the shop, which is developing the business. We heard you're setting up StudioB's commercial department entirely from scratch. What is that like for you?
So it is a daunting task, but one that I'm up for. And we work with a lot of other sister agencies, which has got StudioB to where it is today. And a lot of those agencies are in place. So thank goodness I've got the support and the learnings from these companies. But it's also a task I'm really up for. I mean, I've done this several times in my career, where if it was like Snapchat back in South Africa, where I was the first sales rep, and it was my first job in advertising, and I really didn't know how any of it worked, but I knew how to sell, and I was happy to learn, and I used Snapchat. And we did that then. We grew that team to a team of about 20 across Africa, as well as Ireland. And that was really exciting, but it taught me a lot that I've taken forward into the next thing, and then to the next thing, and then to now. And as long as anyone can understand the product and know and see that it works, and that we're actually providing value, solving problems, not being, a quick, what would you call it, where you blind side, trying to sell and run, that's never going to work, and that's not a company I'd want to join. If we're providing value, we're making a difference, we're turning the needle, then we can grow it. Then that's something anyone can work with. And as long as you have some of those kind of a little bit, not more boring, but like old school sales techniques and processes, and you understand how to build those processes, which I've learned obviously through the course of my career, then you can go ahead and flourish. And like anything, it takes time. Rome wasn't built in a day. So like anything, there are relationships to be built. There is networking to be done. There is pitches to fill out, and you're not going to win every pitch. But at least, hopefully, every pitch we're just learning, and every brief we learn something new. And if we don't get it, we understand exactly why, so we can constantly improve.
I can imagine, since you're focused on these short form video formats a lot, that you often have to collaborate with other agencies to offer clients a complete package. Am I getting that right?
Absolutely.
So, do you get a lot of business at StudioB through other agencies, through like a network of agencies? How does that work?
Absolutely. So we find ourselves in quite a unique position where we don't really ever see ourselves fighting against other agencies. We see ourselves collaborating, where we often provide skills they can't, and likewise they can provide skills that we can't. For instance, a paid media agency or an influencer agency, and we have built this almost like brotherhood or sisterhood of agencies that have all working together on really big campaigns to make a difference and provide a full solution, kind of like you said.
Mm-hmm. And doesn't that make it harder to build a long-term relationship with a client when you're just one of the agencies in a full campaign?
That's my job, I suppose, to come in and understand the client on a personal level. I think that's half of what old school sales. I mean, we're not really in the Mad Men days anymore, although we all wish we were, and I think that's why we all joined advertising. But it's to really understand what does the client want, and not just the client is in the brand, but the client is in the person, and that's someone like me that would come in and obviously the creatives look after the creatives, the ops look after the operations, and I come in to make sure we're building long-term growth. This isn't a once-off.
Mm-hmm. How do you prefer approaching new business? Do you prefer to start small and then grow accounts until they get bigger, or do you prefer to go big from day one and go on the pitch route and go for the big shots?
Go big or go home. No, I just had to say that. So every client is different, and it depends on the capabilities and the possibilities. Also, budgets is a huge thing. Bigger brands have bigger budgets. It means their starting point will be a lot bigger. With every client, there is and us being not the newest kid on the block, but they may not have done what we're doing. Oftentimes, it will be, okay, let's do one campaign, show you the success, and grow from there. Yet, in saying that, we have had big clients that have come in and become a retainer client because they've just seen our work instantly. So that's why I know it's a very generic answer, but it is case by case basis. Again, understanding the objectives. Maybe they just need something quickly, and so that will be our first campaign. Or they need a whole series, which is going to take 3 or 6 months.
I can imagine, because the work that you do is viral content, so a lot of clients probably just see the work that you do for big brands. So how much of your work comes from this inbound? How much of StudioB's pipeline comes from inbound, and how much comes from classical outbound hustle?
I can't share the exact ratio because it does vary literally on a month-to-month basis. Not that I can't share it, but at the moment it's almost seeming like a 50-50 where, and that will vary dramatically month to month, but because we're on a big growth phase, there is a lot of going out there, meeting new brands, the traditional outbound kind of exercises, as you've mentioned. In saying that, another one part of my job, and something that I've realized where true value lies, is once you do a campaign with a brand, brands often have several teams that all are doing different things and sometimes don't even talk to each other. And the amount of opportunity for both parties in just one relationship is massive. And I do believe that's a skill anyone can learn, but it's knowing okay, that was one campaign, yes, but that's a company of 8,000, 15,000 people, with marketing being whatever, 10 to 20%. That's hundreds or thousands of people itself. They're each one looking after different campaigns, different departments. I mean, if you just take a traditional company like a Samsung or a Coca-Cola, I mean, how much is going on globally with just one of those? That could keep you busy forever. So it's also understanding that.
Mhm.
For sure. So what we've been hearing in podcasts and other places a lot is that the marketing budgets are heavily under pressure. You want to grow the Studio B brand and you want to grow it strongly. So what's your take? Are you feeling that pressure? Are brands opening their wallets less willingly?
Maybe. I have an interesting, maybe controversial opinion on this.
Okay.
Um, I think that's an excuse. I honestly think some brands might, and they very well may, their budgets may literally have shrunk. Like literally, paper, it was 100,000, or let's say 10 million last year. This year, it's 7 million, 5 million, whatever it is. There is so much business out there to be gotten. And if you solve the problem, specifically the bigger brands, I mean, we're not necessarily talking about the mom and pop shops, etc. Um, the money is there. If the idea is worth it, the money is there. If you can actually solve the problem that they're facing, the money is there. And so, not to be this hard sales guy who's like, keep pushing. No, I'm not saying you're going to win everything, and definitely that may be a legitimate excuse, but the relationship, never kill the relationship, never burn a bridge. And if that's not the avenue, you find another avenue. It may come later. Divert your attention. See where the smoke is, because if there's smoke, there's fire. Use a lot of cliches today. Vomit.
We can handle
Yeah,
a
you can
little
handle
metaphor, a
it.
little cliche in this
God,
podcast. No
no.
worries.
So yeah, so I think that's my opinion.
Talking about money, would it be cheaper for a client to pay you guys to make viral content that can go viral organically, so they don't have to invest in paid advertising?
I don't think it's one or the other. And we come from a perspective of quality. So brands could potentially find a supplier to make video content that could be cheaper than us. We're not coming in and saying we're the cheapest in the game. We're coming in with quality and saying we'll get you the results. Now, you mentioned a good point, which brands often ask us. So then, okay, we don't need paid. No, two different objectives, two different strategies, because we can get you the organic reach, but that's either on the clients you have, the followers you already have, or our followers, etc. But if your target audience is completely different, you're going to need paid. Those are two different strategies, and I do believe that both should be used for most campaigns. Some campaigns don't need it. Some campaigns maybe only need paid. Some campaigns maybe only need organic. It goes down to the objective. The paid is there for a reason, and it's also understanding where do you get your most value for money. Where does the dollar get the most reach? I mean, right now it's probably TikTok and LinkedIn. Although LinkedIn is expensive, for instance, there's huge value, and there's huge reach in terms of finding your exact consumer. But again, not for every brand, and not for every client.
Okay, interesting. Maybe a final question on this topic, on landing new clients. Do you have a dream client in mind that you haven't landed yet that you would like to add to the portfolio?
We work with it sounds silly, but we work with most of them. A lot of the brands I love personally, your Netflixes, your Apples, your Primes, your Disneys. I'm big into entertainment, as you know. I've written stuff. I do love sports, and I would say my favorite team is Arsenal. Um, and we've done a lot of work with sports teams. We've done a lot of stuff with Man City, New York City FC, DP World Golf. I'd love to do work with Arsenal, just because on a personal perspective, I'd love to do some work with them. And what helps is that pretty much the entire leadership team are all Arsenal fans too. So I think that is one on the radar.
Okay.
Okay. So no Chelsea or Everton scarves
Ooh,
during your
God, no.
meetings.
No, we have a big Man
God, no.
City signed shirt just because we do a lot of work with them and we do love them and they are great. But from a football perspective, it's mostly Arsenal, yeah.
Okay. We're already kind of there with the next topic because we want to look a bit behind the curtain at your creator-led studio. Who works there? Does Gen Z dominate? Are you perchance the oldest?
I'm not the oldest, but I am one of the oldest. I did think I was
Yeah.
the oldest because the other two look younger than me. I'm not sure why. But I am one of the oldest. It is Gen Z led, which is brilliant. And I had an interesting conversation literally today with a 23-year-old who gets flown. He's part of our studio. Gets flown literally all over the world, shooting content for huge brands. Your big hotels like your Four Seasons, your Emirates, your biggest brands in the world. And he was on a shoot in Seville. Sevilla. That's how you pronounce it in Spain. I think he got back yesterday or whatever. I mean, he's going Maldives next week. He was in Thailand 2 weeks ago shooting for White Lotus, and he was there with two 40-year-olds who were also brought in the job, and they didn't know his age. And eventually, they found out his age, and they were like, "What? You're 23?" And he showed me, and it's like they couldn't believe it, and they also couldn't believe what he was doing. And he showed me what they did, which looked great, and then he showed me what he did, and it looked so much more applicable to a Gen Z audience because he is it. He's a social creator creating for social, where they come from old school film. And I don't know who they are, and I'm sure they're amazing, but they were creating that kind of content for social, so it didn't match, it didn't click. You weren't going to stay on that and watch. So it is big Gen Z focus because I think that is our audience, and that's obviously will change to alpha, etc.
So I'm guessing that these Gen Zers also don't have a lot of traditional agency experience. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot come from actually a lot of a more cinematic kind of world of films and series. A lot of our team has actually been flown in from around the world because they're the best at what we do. Half of our studio is CGI and VFX artists. And I suppose, obviously it means they don't have necessarily that experience, but it also means that they're very fresh and they haven't been, not that there's a jadedness that comes with being an agency, but sometimes you are, the corporate world can squish one. So they don't have that.
Can I deduct from that Studio B is not exactly run according to the traditional agency
Absolutely not.
playbook? Absolutely not. No.
Absolutely not. You come in, you think this is the funnest, most social playground you've ever been into. Everyone is super professional, so it doesn't take away from that. But when I first joined, I was like, people are getting paid to do this? Like, what? Like the laughter. I mean, it's loud. There's always music going. It's like there's table tennis. I mean, the classic kind of startup-y kind of stuff. But it's like, it's definitely not run, which is so great. But I suppose that's where I've come in terms of a bit more traditional advertising experience, but more agency life. Isn't that this is what this is called, right? Agency life.
Yep.
Plug.
For
Subtle
sure.
plug.
Yeah. The original Agency
Agency
Life
life
started in April 2021.
is that those traditional CRMs, processes, pipeline building, etc. But again, there's so much I can learn and take to the team, to the sales team as we grow it, in terms of the creativity, the freshness, the excitement, etc.
Yeah. So you are kind of bringing some of the more standard ways of business development for agencies to this young creator-led table to professionalize in a way.
I'm not sure if professionalize is the right word. I agree with what you're saying because everyone is super professional, but it's almost too. There's so much excitement. It's just to make sure we're on top of everything and to make sure there are systems that can run and remind us rather than us having to remember. And obviously, that's what a CRM does. That's what pipelines do. That's what automation tools do. And I mean, AI is. I mean, that's something I've learned a huge amount of. And that's probably me just being a millennial, not Gen Z, is how much AI we use, but we've created our own AI. So all of the stuff that we do is actually based on our own information, our own creative, but also just utilizing the AI tools that are out there to automate mundane tasks and make things just easier and quicker. That's a big part that I've learned.
Mhm.
Okay.
So what you're saying is that some of the old school or traditional agency playbook stuff on a business development is relevant for you guys, and that's what you're bringing in to professionalize that in sort of a way. Is there the other way around, something that you feel traditional agencies can learn from the way Studio B operates, which is a lot less traditional?
There are a few things I'm trying to figure out which one is the most relevant to what you've asked, because the answer is yes, definitely. I think one of them is actually just culture, perhaps, where the culture is so uplifting and like every idea matters, good or bad, because we welcome bad ideas. And look, agencies, I'm not saying they don't do this, they definitely do. But I think because that is the core of everything we do, is to create content, create ads that don't look like ads, create entertainment that is seeped into kind of the blood and bones of Studio B. That's perhaps something.
Basically, what you guys are trying to do is what, in a nutshell or in the essence, most advertising agencies should want to be doing, is make stuff that people want to watch, that they want to consume, which is, as we all know, not exactly true anymore for any of the millions and millions of ads we see every day. So, what advice would you give to other creative agencies trying to shift towards more daring, more eye catching, more show stopping work?
I think it's almost like say no more. So say no to the bad ideas. So even if the client wants it, now I get it. Not every company or agency, specifically if you're an independent, if you're a startup, can say no. But at the end of the day, I think we all want to, inverted commas, make cool shit. So we want to be able to help our clients, and sometimes they know best, and sometimes they don't, because sometimes you've got someone 2 generations away, but you're trying to talk to Gen Z, for instance, and we know how to do that. That's how we've become who we've become. Um, and so sometimes you do need to just say no to a campaign, even if that means you're turning down whatever it is.
Mm.
Okay.
Dean, thank you for sharing your perspective on the industry today and for sharing your story from Studio B. What really stuck with me is how intentional your business model is. It's not just creativity for the sake of it. It's actually strategic risk taking. You're trying to sell more by making cool shit that grabs attention. And if you actually solve the client's problem, the money is always there. That's something that I will remember.
And the way Studio B blends creator culture with commercial thinking, pretty cool.
Thanks again for joining us, Dean.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Thanks for taking the time. It's been really fun.
And where can people find out more about you and about Studio B?
So, I mean, firstly is check out our website, studiob.net. All its info. I mean, happy to mail me directly, dean@studiob.net if you want. I mean, I can give you my address as well. I'm joking, obviously.
He's very approachable.
I am too approachable. And also, you can check out our socials. We've just started a whole new social media team, so it's really exciting. So a lot going to be coming out now. Probably by the time this is out, that a lot of stuff will be out. Also, just check out Brandon's pages, Brandon B, across all the different socials. You'll see literally hundreds upon hundreds of videos and campaigns, and you'll see some of the epic work that we've done there.
I'll make sure to do that.
And for you, our lovely listener and or viewer, thanks listeners and viewers for listening or watching Agency Life. If you liked or loved this episode, hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want our content every 2 weeks straight into your mailbox, then just go to agencylife.be or agencylife.nl and we'll deliver a new video podcast for you every 15 days.
See you next time, Robin.
See you next time, Louise.